what the tellers have submitted. The ayes, 137. The noes, 136. Honorable members, as you sit, God created the human being in a very beautiful way. As I'm looking at you, I can't see my back. That is how you are. As you sit, you can't see your back. As I sit, I can see your front, I can see your back. As you sit, you can see my front, you can see my back. I go by the rules, and that's what I'm applying. Please, I will not do anything untoward. If you want, see me in chambers. Honorable members, with this, the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022 is read the third time and passed.
An act to amend the Excise Duty Act 2014 Act 878 to increase the excise duty in respect of cigarettes and tobacco products, wine, malt drinks and spirits, and to impose...
Honorable members, we have some of our members that are incapacitated. And what I did was to ask the whips to go and physically see them. The state of incapacitation and whether they are of sound mind. Because we are dealing with decision taking, voting, before they can come to testify, which has been done. And so they were recorded and counted accordingly. So I have the figures here with me. That's why I referred you to that standing order. The ayes have it.
An act to amend...
Honorable members.
An act to amend the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, to revise the rates of income tax for individuals and introduce an additional income tax bracket, introduce a withholding tax rate on the realization of assets and liabilities and on winnings from lottery, revise the treatment of foreign exchange losses, revise the upper limit for the quantification of motor vehicle benefits, and provide for related matters.
So we played all this. Actually happened in Parliament around midnight, as a matter of fact, what you just saw. So we woke up to the news of these three revenue bills being passed or approved by Parliament, despite the concerns that were raised by the business community and the mining sector and the upstream petroleum sector, because these amendments borders on all these areas as well. And the Association of Ghana Industries, for instance, raised specific concerns about this with Federation of Labour, fearing that there could be, possible layoffs and the companies shutting down because of this particular bill, which has now been approved by Parliament. So the minority were very clear on their stance on this. And so how did this go through? How was it approved? Did it get the support of the minority in this, or it was just the numbers of the majority that got it through? Bearing in mind the fact that a member of Parliament was involved in an accident and couldn't have been on the floor of Parliament. We have the Kumewu MP who unfortunately passed on. So that impacted on the numbers of the NPP in the House. if you want to take those two out, technically means you have 135 of them plus the independent candidate who is doing business with the NPP are making up 136. And the NDC had their full complement of 136 MPs in Parliament. We'll find out why. But promo. Estate Masters Limited has lands located within Ningo Prampram district, 10 minutes drive from the Central University and at Chopoli, close to the newly proposed airport site, 15 minutes drive from the Sagleme Affordable Housing Project. Contact them on 059 388 4698, 059 388 4698, or 059 388 4698 for your spot. That's for you, our viewers watching us. Honorable Mayaga, so we saw some protests from your side, the backbenchers on your side, about how these revenue bills, the three of them, were approved. But the finance minister was in Parliament all throughout the period?
Yes, he was in Parliament. Yeah.
Throughout till midnight and beyond?
Yeah, till we adjourned.
I see. So what happened? I thought that you had the numbers, and you were quoted quite clearly that the minority stands opposed to this, and you're going to make sure that this does not pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be opposed to it. It's another thing to win the vote. As I indicated on the various media platforms that I spoke preceding the consideration of the bills, I said our side was opposed, and our side was indeed opposed. And we went through the vote. We called for a head count, and they counted, and the clerk declared that our side was 136, and their side was also 137. I've always known, and that's the thing that we expect people to know. I've always known that in any vote in which the NPP is able to galvanize its numbers, they should win by at least one vote.
At least one vote.
At least one vote. In this case, one MP, we consider several strategies. Trust me, we do a lot of strategizing. We considered the option of walking out. In the past, walking out hasn't served us well in terms of the public understanding that move as a strategy. Okay. So we discounted it. But the real reason why we couldn't walk out was we're looking at how to deny the majority a quorum to actually enact the legislation.
Right.
So the Constitution says, half of all members of Parliament. As we speak, we did a calculation. Because one person has passed on, our number is actually 274, and not 275. So at least half will be 137. So realize that if we tried walking out or anything relating to denying them a quorum, we'll lose, because if they go to court ultimately, the court will be telling us, but if one person has died, your number is not 275. It is if all of you are there that your number is 275, and then at least half is 138. So that strategy will not work. So all we had was to be in the House and to vote. And we also know that when it comes to a voice vote, with the option of challenging the voice vote and a head count and a division, nobody usually will like to vote against their party position. And so most likely, unless the person doesn't show up, the person shows up, the person is likely to vote along their party lines. So if some people on the MPP side did not show up, because most of the amendments were proposed by us, okay, we needed to win the votes. We were proposing amendments to the bills, deleting the charging provisions. So we needed to win the vote. Okay? So even if we got 136, we would have still lost. But when we come to the third reading, they are the ones who are moving the motion. So if they also got 136, the bill would have also been lost ultimately. So there were a lot of interesting dynamics happening last night into this morning. But yesterday, according to the clerk who counted, and I keep repeating the word, according to the clerk who counted, the NDC members were 136, and the MPP members were 137.
But did you
there was a
query
controversy.
that?
There was a controversy when it was discovered that one of the MPP members, on his way to Parliament, got involved in an accident. Okay? Then some members of our caucus started protesting that, but how did we get the 137 that the clerk counted when on the way here, one of the MPP members got involved in an accident.
So he wasn't present in the House at the time?
The assumption is that at the time that the vote was being taken, the first vote, because the votes, there were several votes. There were several votes. You know, there were several votes. And when we lost the initial votes, the key charging provisions, when we lost those votes, the rest didn't really matter to us. I mean, you know the procedure in Parliament. There's a critical vote that you must win. If you don't win that one, everything else that you are fighting, you know, it's a lost battle. So the argument is that at the time we were voting on the first one, where was that member of Parliament? When he got involved in the accident, did he move and come to Parliament? Did they go outside to count him? And when did they go outside to count him? And then we did not know, you know, those issues came up. But then the truth of the matter is that even if he was in the chamber, or even if he wasn't in the chamber, is that okay? Let me put it that way. Even if he wasn't in the chamber, the vote would have still been 136.
Right.
Okay? If you took out his vote, it would have still been 136. And so we would have lost the first initial votes anyway. So that is why we didn't really push on those matters.
I see. So then that explains it. But then again, yes.
But if he wasn't there, the first initial vote.
Subsequently, they brought him in an ambulance.
But before, if at the first one he wasn't there, then the issue of quorum. Because at least one half of all members of Parliament present. So if he wasn't there at the beginning, how did
we were in the chamber, so there was quorum. We were in the chamber. We were in the chamber. Quorum means that you don't have that number in the chamber. But we were in the chamber to vote against. So quorum was properly constituted.
So let me understand this. So the MP who was involved in the accident was eventually brought to Parliament.
He was brought to Parliament.
In an ambulance.
In an ambulance.
To come and vote.
Yeah, to come and vote. Yeah, that was what happened. But we don't know which of the votes he met, because we had several votes. We don't know which of them he met.
I see.
Because we were in the chamber and then he was brought outside, so we don't know which of the votes.
So the ambulance that we saw, the video we have, was the MP brought to Parliament.
Yes.
He was brought to Parliament last night. In that ambulance we saw in that video.
Yes, that was the report.
Come and vote.
I didn't see. We were in the chamber, but then we were told that he was brought in an ambulance. And then one of our MP's colleagues, you know, accompanied him, who's a medical doctor, then accompanied him to the hospital. But then he came back. He came back.
I see. But what condition was he in? I mean, that's the ambulance.
Yeah, he wasn't unconscious or anything. He had a deep cut, and that was what we were concerned about. So generally, you know, we are not so inhumane that we are thinking more about votes than the lives of our colleagues. So, you know, he had a deep cut, so it was suggested that he should rather be sent to the hospital, you know, because we had lost the vote anyway.
You see someone on a stretcher being carried in there.
Yeah. So
because the accident happened outside of Parliament. That's the GIJ.
Not far from Parliament, yes. And we have so many ambulances, about 2 ambulances in Parliament.
Okay.
Right.
So it's not a far distance.
Okay, so you went to pick him up from the accident scene,
yeah.
brought him to Parliament, because this is the presence of Parliament.
Yes.
Brought him to Parliament instead of taking him straight to the hospital to come and do whatever he came there to do.
I'm told that he insisted on coming to Parliament.
He insisted on coming to Parliament.
To come and participate in the vote. This is the kind of risk that we all go through, because your side must win. So,
wow. That's serious.
Any of us would have done that, trust me, because yesterday was a crucial day.
You would have all done
We
same.
would have all insisted on coming to vote. Unless we were dead, you would have insisted on coming to vote. Because this one, your vote is no. It's not like the secret ballot that people can hide and do whatever, and people will not know. The way the stakes are high, everybody has to show up, and then your votes will also be known. So yesterday it was 136, 137.
Wow. Nikwate Titus Glover, let me bring you at this point. I am struggling to understand why you have to go through this risk of somebody has been involved in an accident. And even if the person insists on being brought to the house because of how crucial it is, from the accident scene, the ambulance takes him to Parliament to rather go and vote before. And you see how gory the accident is. Maybe for the benefit of our viewers, we'll show how mangled the car was.
Afi, I feel sad. I feel sad for our colleague. And sometimes in my earlier commentary, I did say that sometimes the way the public treats members of Parliament is quite unfortunate.
This is serious.
Apart from the way the incessant demand in our pockets, our ability to satisfy most of our constituents, without also looking the security, the risk, and the welfare of members of Parliament. It's quite unfortunate. If he's not rushed to the hospital, looking at the level, the intensity of this accident, he'll have had internal bleeding.
True.
And the other guy was telling he had a big cut on the forehead.
Yeah.
And let me repeat again. This is the price that you pay for skirt and
Stop
blouse.
campaigning for your party.
Why do you
Please,
say this?
please, please. Keep quiet. When you were talking, I was quiet. So keep quiet. Keep quiet. Just keep quiet.
Stop campaigning for your party.
Why do you narrow this down?
Skirt and blouse voting.
Because
were we not in the majority before you took over?
Please. It's a cycle. So just cool down. I will campaign and warn my party people. What is happening can happen to you. When your people said they are traitors, some of our colleagues were saying that those who voted for us are traitors, and for that matter, they're going to fish them out.
Look at that. That's the vehicle.
That is it. They are traitors, and they're going to fish them out. You are going to touch innocent people. You understand? So look at it. But because the number is slim, and I said something. He said he doesn't know when he came in to vote because I've been earlier voting.
Indeed.
So it is possible that he was not there in those earlier voting. And he said what? There are critical votes that they were expecting. Yeah, he might have lost those earlier votes that doesn't matter to the NDC. But he was in the chamber. He came in when the 3 critical financial bills.
No, he didn't come in. They brought him.
Whether they brought him or they carried
the clerk
him,
was
they
made to
lifted
go
him,
out.
whatever,
Because
he was there.
Were directed
Yes.
to go in and confirm.
Engage him whether he has a sound mind,
Yeah.
he can reason or whatever,
Can
and they
vote.
look at him.
Yeah.
And his vote was taken. So he came right at the time those 3 girls' votes were being taken.
That is at the peril of his own life.
I'm sad. Afi, I'm very sad in this development. All I can say is to wish him well. Between yesterday night, this dawn, and this morning, I wish him well. And thankfully, they are on recess. And that is why it's going to take time to heal gradually, to come back. The public must appreciate the sacrifices of honorable members of Parliament. Look at what he's going through. Me, I'm fine. Edgar, me, I'm fine.
You see,
2 terms is okay. But when you go through this, you have people in your constituency who don't even appreciate you. They'll line up in your house to the streets. They'll follow in your home. They'll go to your parents' house. They'll come to your private office. They'll come to parliament. They'll come to the ministry, chasing you, all that. And sometimes, funnily, when you have some good money in your hands, Martin, it's like a spirit. You don't know where these calls will be coming from. People with all kinds of demands and their problems. And you start dissipating all these monies everywhere. And it's going and come back to zero. And the worst of all, when you have a one-term member of parliament and you go and take loan, and the security to your loan, the guarantee is your ex-gratia. And unfortunately, when you lose, you can imagine what you go through. So I want to appeal to the public. Don't always look at your interest. Look at that of the members of parliament. Trust me. It's a service that we are doing. The vehicles that you see them driving through all over the place is a loan. They take it from their salary. At the end of the day, what is left is a pittance. But because they've given themselves up to serve their country, that is the motivation that they have. That is the motivation that they have to serve this country. There was a time when you go to the man who sells these football and jerseys at the entrance. I'll tell you a story today, Afi. I will not mention a member of parliament's name. He was a one-term member of parliament. And I went there to meet someone. He came there to ask for fuel. He drove all the way from his house. The gauge in the car was blinking yellow to ask for 500 Ghana cedis to buy fuel. One-time member of parliament. This is what the ritual my colleagues are going through every time.
You said one term and was voted out.
Absolutely. So the situation in which we find ourselves, our appeal to the public, they need to be a bit patient. Sometimes they are taxed on MPs, and we the politicians, our appeal to them.
But you think the numbers issue is crucial more in this.
And it will continue like this.
Parliament, especially. But I mean, people, look, this is about life. I mean, even if the person takes a decision that, you know what, my size needs me in the house. So even though I've been involved in this ghastly accident, drive me to parliament. Let me go and vote to approve a bill, a revenue bill that has its own concerns that the business community and indeed yourself has raised. Because look, the business community says this is going to lead to an increase in the cost of doing business for them.
Yes.
Eventually, they say they will pass on the cost to you and I. So the end result of what's happened last night or this dawn is the cost of living, all things being equal, going up.
Further.
And this was done even at the peril of an MP's own life.
Yeah, certainly it raises some ethical issues. Yes, especially as we don't know, or in natural fact, let's just say once the accident happened, so we know the accident happened. So for him to have gone to parliament, I see, it was quite dangerous. Because if you look at the previous president, Honorable Kum, Kojo Kum,
former chief
they
minister.
drove him to parliament in an ambulance, right? And the speaker sent people to go check. So maybe the MP should have made his way to the hospital first. Then if he thought he was that well, he would call parliament. Then they would come do that verification, or they would wait so that at least he would be given
We have a clinic in parliament.
So perfect. So when he came, then he would go seek medical help first. So Honorable, are you aware that that's what he did first?
I don't know, we're in the chamber.
That's the thing.
But there's a clinic, and
At that time, the clinic is closed.
usually closed. But
You see?
closed.
Yeah, so
but
looking
usually
at
the
it,
last day, everybody stays around. I don't know if the clinic was closed, but
if you look at it practically, you should have sought medical help first, because the first human instinct is self-preservation. Get to a hospital, get medical attention, you are stabilized, or even if it's not that you're stabilized, you don't need to be stabilized, they will check to be sure that everything is okay, and then you could do the vote. Because obviously, to the extent that it was very, very critical, once word got to Speaker that the MP had been taken to hospital and all that, I'm sure the majority would lobby that let's give some time so that the MP could come, or, those kind of things. So straight away, this one, I think he should have been making his way to the hospital first. Well, but at least, thank God, so far, it wasn't that it was in a life-threatening condition and all that. So maybe we can leave it at that. But he certainly had to have gone to hospital first, and then the rest will be taken care of.
The fundamental issue is the impact of these taxes, is it
Yes,
not?
yes.
What happened?
Yeah, so, and you see, I don't know, these are democracy. That's the crux of the matter. Throughout the week, I heard Mr. David Ampofo, is it
The
Chamber
upstream,
Chamber of Upstream Petroleum Companies, right? So they said the tax would increase one of the bills. So we are talking about 3 taxes now, right? There's a growth and sustainability
We'll put that
bill.
on the screen.
Then there's the income tax amendment bill. Then there's the excise duty law. So 3 of them. And then there's the revenue administration. It has to do with administration. So we'll leave that out. So 4 laws, but 3 going to increase cost of living for us. Yes, so looking at it, people have complained. So I heard Mr. Ampofo complain that it was going to affect upstream petroleum companies. The excise duty one was going to affect the beverage producers, right? Yes, and then the income tax. People made noise and noise and noise. But I think in all of this, we don't seem to appreciate that the way the government is very insensitive to our cost of living crisis. We need to come together to fight. So you see this one fighting in its own corner small. Already the numbers are down or very low. Not enough people are fighting. And then secondly, they are not coming together. Because as I said, when I heard Mr. Ampofo 2-3 times, I was it. Then I tuned in the next day to another station. Then I heard the beverage producers. And then then I also heard about the growth and sustainability deal. I'm sure.
In fact, we have the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Chona Makwelo. You'll hear from him as we go on.
So look, is it now AGI? You have so many, members. You see, often the CEOs in Ghana, they won't fight. Often because their lifestyles are better. That's a problem. So you see that if you go, nowadays I like to talk every day about Plato's Republic. I like to refer to that book because it tells you that society, generally, when it comes to democracy, we haven't changed much. All these problems were there. Even when Plato wrote the Republic, where he was recording a lot of conversations that Socrates had with other people, Thrasymachus and all those Polemachus and all the characters. So you read Plato's Republic, you look at Ghana today, you still see the democracy and see the same problems. You have CEOs, lots of companies in Ghana. Those that are affected, what prevented them from coming together? I understand they even have an association, yet they weren't fighting much because, like you rightly said, they would pass this cost on to the final consumer. When we're already suffocating, because, since the last year, the beginning, the cost of living crisis, when we were booted out of the international capital market and then the CD fell, inflation went up over 54%. Now it's come down marginally down, but the prices haven't come down. You see that thing? And yet we just will not fight. The people who can fight most will not fight because they have better standards of living. Meanwhile, they forget that they also have relations in the villages. Yeah, you can be a CEO of your company, you make all the money, everything. But as long as your people in the village and even those who are not even your family members, the guys in the streets selling the dog chains and the rest. Look, when this discontent continues, somebody wrote somewhere that he's never seen a society where people have stomached the discontent forever. No, one day to blow up. Then you in your V8 in traffic, you also be affected. Because I don't get it. You find big companies, people who should fight. Everybody's just scared. They will target my company. So who should, we are talking here, yes, we are also suffering it. Everybody must pay a price. You talk to some of the CEOs, hey, is it my matter? No, they will target my company. So can you imagine if all the CEOs in Ghana were to come together, press conference, over 100 of you, who are they going to target? Who are they going to target? And sometimes I wonder how Kwame Nkrumah made it. Yeah, because I'm like, this society, the way everybody People don't want to fight. Not enough people. I'm like, so how did Kwame Nkrumah really make it? Yeah, because you see people look at Vomawo. Recently, that's the way I've been looking at it. I'm like, Oliver came and fought. You see the e-levy and all the problems. When he got trouble, we didn't give much support. Now he goes to court alone, he and his lawyer. I see that every time I see them in court, I'm like, wow, this our society is weak. Even as lawyers, privately, even if not the bar association, how much have we reached out to support him? What the guy was saying is true. This e-levy matters. What he was saying, hey, we should get up and fight. We didn't fight. Hasn't it come to affect all of us? Then you look at the domestic bond exchange program. You see? Now, you ask our members, they'll tell you, some of the monies have not been paid. Delay upon delay. Every day on the WhatsApp, you see members crying because they've not been paid their coupons, their maturities, etc. Everybody is filling into their pockets now. Meanwhile, we all know that President Kufuor promised us what? Milk and honey. I'm moving from what? Nuisance taxes to production. Yes, from taxation to production. Today, do you see that he was even the one launching some electronic platform for us to collect more taxes? I thought he would have said, oh, since I came in to diversify the economy, I've since helped the youth to create maybe 50,000 acre farm to produce rice. You don't have such practical examples. Now you have Baumia rather coming to launch for electronic VAT and all those things to be taken, championing more taxation. When about 6.5 years ago, he was championing what? Production. When I saw it, yesterday's newspaper, I wanted to bring it. I mean, it was just laughable. I was like, oh, yeah? Yeah? The architect of taxation to production has done a U-turn and is now gone from production to what? Taxation. To tax us. So please, this impact, it's not yet late. You know, you remember the VAT thing. Yeah, when they got up Kumi Preko and made noise that time, yeah, it was withdrawn. So though it's been passed, the president is here to sign. So it's not yet late. If only Ghanaians will come together, we need to come together and fight it. So the CEOs of the companies, they shouldn't think that because they can pass on to us, then that means that they can just, these beverages and everything. No. And the growth and sustainability one, the banks and all that.
Yes.
You see, you own shares in the bank. Yes, now they'll pay that tax before profit. So it's going to affect you on ultimately. They'll come and say there's no money to pay what? Dividends. Because it's going to reduce the dividend. Already, the domestic debt exchange program is going to reduce dividends. Then now you are adding this tax. And then the food, beverages, we are going to suffer. So everywhere. So the government is just putting its hands in our pockets and just taking out money, willy-nilly. Meanwhile, in the process, President Kufuor and Ofori-Atta, that the hundreds of millions of cedis that they made from the bonds, that one is untouchable. It's untouchable. You have made hundreds of millions from the bonds. Ofori-Atta, the fees and commissions through data bank. And of course, Ofori-Atta being the president's brother, I don't use cousin because in account there's no word for cousin, it's brother. Yes, ask account, they will tell you there's no word for cousin. So that's the president's family. That's become very super rich. They are not touching that money. They are rather coming to tax us more. The first thing Ofori-Atta should have done is that he will return the money, all of the money, or at least you say, okay, let me retain 20% because we've spent it. I want to return 80% to the public chest. Then you see how we'll get up and we'll even do more. You see, sometimes it's symbolic. You may say, oh, how much is 200 million Ghana or what? Of course, it's a lot more than that. But even if, let's say, they were to return just about 200 million Ghana, then you change the psyche of the people because then you are showing the way to what? Cost sharing, burden sharing, you see. So every time Ofori-Atta gets up, he says, oh, yeah, at this time you must help the nation. I'm like, master, you've made hundreds of millions, apart from data bank, enterprise. Enterprise has taken a lot of business from SIC. And that one I told you, look, go interview Enterprise. SIC, the state insurance company. Lots of their business is going to Enterprise because to do government business, you need guarantees and insurance policies from Enterprise, Ofori-Atta's company.
We'll need to check that.
Yes, please, it's open. It's open. I'm not running. You see, I've said it a number of times here. I haven't seen anybody taking me on. If we can go to court, you can always sue or defend it. Nobody's going to take. It's public. It's an open secret. SIC people, they are always crying because chunk of their business is gone to Enterprise because Ministry of Finance, contractors, all that, you need insurance, you need guarantee. Ask the business with the same business people who will not fight. You need enterprise. Without enterprise, they won't, your contract won't go through. You see, so having made money all this while, then you remember the last I mentioned, Lands Commission, even they were going to take away collection of regularization fees. Yeah, Data Bank, the group, they were going to take that business away. The workers had to get up and fight. And then for now, it's gone a bit quiet. But I understand they may go back. The Lands Commission people, they have to get up and fight again. Because I'm beginning to understand that there are attempts to revive that transaction again so that the Data Bank group, one of their companies, would, the enterprise group, one of the companies would be in charge of collecting fees on behalf of government. Then they will make money. What kind of country is this? So the point I'm making is that all of our money is going to Ufuriata and President Kufuor, and we are quiet. That this topic can never go away because Kufuor said that if you want to make money, go to the private sector. So is it the case that he intended to just deceive people to leave the government sector, then his family will take over everything? Yes, because that's what it means. It says if you want to make money, go to the private sector. Now, what is the scorecard? The scorecard is that the Data Bank enterprise group, through Data Bank and enterprise insurance, they've taken a lot of government contracts, and his family has become very rich. So when he said go to the private sector, it was an attempt to deceive people to look the other way. Then they will amass everything for themselves. And I'm saying that we have to get up to fight this. It's not late. So these laws that have been passed, we are hoping the CEOs of these companies should do a press conference, invite all Ghanaians, let's roll up a program and demonstrate. I'm sure the president would then refuse to assent to the bills. And you know, by law, Article 106 of the Constitution, if the president doesn't sign, it will not become law. And if he doesn't sign, though we know theoretically in the same law, Parliament by two-thirds majority can overturn the president's veto. It won't happen because you see that the members of Parliament, they won't even be happy. The only reason they're doing it is because if they don't, you know, the party can sponsor other candidates to get them out of office. So they are really not happy. Ask Honorable Mama. I'm sure even Honorable Titus Glover, who is MPP, he knows it because he also feels it. Because that was the same thing you were saying, that you get money and it goes to the constituents. So we need to stand up. What we need to do is that government must cut down expenditure. That is the elephant in the room. When we went to do the domestic debt exchange program negotiations, Operator set up a technical committee. We went in there and we showed government, cut down the numbers, cut down. So we are coming to the number of appointees at the office of the president. You see that it's increased. The political appointees have increased. Yeah?
From a little over 330 to 360.
361.
361.
361. And then the other people, the public servants and all those things, if you put together, so 1,048. Last year, the last time the report came out, it was 998, just too shy of 1,000. But this year, when you add, you get 1,048. So there's an increase. And this again, we are quiet. And why do we do that? So I was making the point about the elephant in the room being cut down expenditure.
Okay.
Cut down. So we need a new Appropriations Act. You see Ofuriata going around begging China and all the countries to, reduce our debt or resettle and the rest. But we need to also show them in good faith. That's how come, you remember last week, we were bemoaning the approval of the 6 ministers and deputy ministers, right? Yeah, because we've not followed what the German ambassador said. The German ambassador told President Kufuor that cut down your number of ministers because Ghana, smaller country, poorer country, we have more than Germany has. The president didn't mind. And so you even read here where this Ofuriata, on his return from China, he's saying, yes, it's going well. The European Union is behind Ghana and all that. How are they behind us? When the German ambassador, Germany is the biggest in the European Union in terms of the economy, blah, blah, blah. When they've told us expressly that we should cut down our numbers, how do you say they are behind us? When I read it, I was like, Then the German ambassador said that we should cut down. So since when have they backed down from that request or that demand? You see?
Well, I'll bring you at this point, but let me just say that we'll put the projected revenues from these three bills that have been approved now on the screen. But Lawyer Matikbebu, your references to these other companies and enterprises, even though, yes, it is something that, but
It's
we
public.
cannot independently
Yes,
also,
open
we cannot
secret.
independently verify
He went to
that.
Parliament. Honorable Mama
cannot
Ayaga, in Parliament, didn't
independently
Furiata
verify
admit
that
to you
as
guys
well.
that
Yeah,
Data Bank made money
yes.
from fees and commissions?
Indeed. So the projected revenues, yes, that's what you see there. Excise duty amendment bill, 400 million annually. Growth and sustainability bill, 2.2 billion annually. Income tax amendment bill, 1.2 billion annually. And then also the business community raised concerns about they already burdened with these taxes. The local manufacturers, these are the taxes and tariffs that they are already paying. Even before this kicks in, you see the import duty, import VAT, processing fee, ECOWAS levy, network charge, and so on. It's so many of them. In fact, let's go to the next page. There are so many of them. Import NHIL.
And nuisance taxes.
Ghana Exim levy, Get Fund is there, 2.5%. Let's go to the next one. All these are local manufacturers' taxes and levies. And they have inspection fee, AU, import levy, COVID-19 health recovery levy is there. Then this is, apart from the 2.5 increase in VAT, which is also impacting on them. And a number of these taxes are indexed in dollars. So you can imagine the impact it's having on them. The Importers and Exporters Association also furnished us with this detail, the number of taxes that they are paying as well, quite a lot of it. You see the import duty, import ECOWAS levy, vehicle examination fee, they're all there as well. And then already the manufacturing sector, this is what the AGI is concerned about. Already industry has seen an 80% increase in the water tariffs, and the commercial bottled water and drinks companies as well seen a 172% increase in water tariffs. Electricity 65% since the beginning of the year already. So this has created the burden and increased the cost of doing business.
Thank you.
And which led to the increase in sachet water prices we saw from 20 or 30 to 50 pesos for one, and then about 10 cedis for a bag. And then all the others that we've seen, the increases we've seen all around us, whereas the income in the pocket of the Ghanaian remains the same, in fact, reducing in value.
Exactly.
Because of this. No more titles go over.
I sat down quietly and I listened to Martin Pebu, all the attacks on the president and Kendo Furata. At a distance, I watched him, but directly with me here, he has not changed. And he has really made his point so forcefully and so legendary. Let me say that when these taxes are going to be passed, I know the Minister of Finance engages stakeholders, including the AGI and other groups of people, to make sure that they can have their input fed into whatever they are doing, to make sure that they'll be able to arrive at a position that will be clear. You recall, in the first term of His Excellency the President's in government, I was a deputy minister then. There were 15 different types of taxes that were taken off. One is to abolish the 17.5% VAT NHIL on real estates, abolish the 17.5% VAT NHIL on selected imported medicines that are not produced locally, abolish 17.5% VAT NHIL on financial services, abolish import duty on importation of spare parts, abolish 1% special tax import levy, abolish 17.5% VAT on domestic airline tickets. This and on 15 different types. Lamadipe, were you in this country?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I'm voting
Cool
for
down,
Kufuor.
cool down, please. Cool down. I didn't invite you to comment. At this time when these taxes were taken off, they are revenue. Because we felt that there's an opportunity for us to have a feel of what the people are going through. So we decided to take 15%. It obviously affected the revenue generation at the time. But the situation in which we find ourselves, I'm surprised. I admire you, but sometimes look beyond Ghana. You have limited your focus only in what is happening here.
No.
No, that is exactly.
In America, they are creating more jobs.
When you were talking, I was quiet. So please, calm down. I was here and you were ranting and doing all kinds of politics here. Go to Europe, the very places that you are making reference to. I have videos I will share with you, Avi, including my senior, that energy costs and food prices in Poland, in Germany, in Hungary, in Italy, in Spain, all over. Because the pressure and the cost of living and the fact that things are becoming so dear. It is not only in Ghana. But when Mantikpeku is making his argument, he only wants to focus on Ghana as if Ghana is only an island and what is happening here is only in Ghana. Increase in energy prices, food prices, other things, all over. But when you are making your argument and you sit back and you listen to them, you ask, are these people really here? So clearly, if these things have been made and we are stuck currently the way we find ourselves, that international financial market has been shut on our face because we've not been able to pay our debts. So how do you pay your debts? It's about some of these things that we have to do. And because we have to come internally and find ways and means to raise this revenue. So be able to pay off. Because these what do you call it? Moody's and the Fitch people, the assessment of our economy is because we've not been able to pay our debts. So how do you pay your debts? It's a way of trying to raise revenue that you're able to pay off some of these debts. The one that is remained is what we use in the development of this country. Kenneth Furata told us some months back that 70% of the revenue that we generate is used in servicing and payment of debts, both principal and interest. The 30% is what is left for us. Government worker compensation has not come. CAPEX have not come. So clearly, when you sit back and you make the argument like this, in the eyes of ordinary Ghanaian, you might think that government is so insensitive, government is so wicked. But that is not the reality. That is not the case.
The insensitivity comes from the point of government asking the citizens to sacrifice. You've imposed taxes. You have no choice than to pay, most of it being indirect. But the call on government to cut down on expenditure is not being heeded to. I think that's where the insensitivity is. And we are seeing evidence of the expenditure rather going up with the increase in, for instance, the staff at the Jubilee House. I mean, so how do you continuously talk about burden sharing when the greater part of the burden is on the Ghanaian people? How's that?
That is going to be the third leg of our discussion on this increment in the workers working at the presidency and all that. But clearly, let me state it. Ayariga Sitting, he has been a minister of state before. I've been a deputy minister.
Indeed.
I can tell you with all sincerity, ministers and deputy ministers, they don't spend much on us. You know why? Because most of the budget of these ministries goes in goods and services and capital expenditure. I was paid from Parliament. My salary as a deputy minister, I was paid from Parliament. I wasn't paid by the executive. As a deputy minister, my fuel was 1,400 Ghana cedis at the Ministry of Transport. So the impression is being created that ministers of state are suffering state money, and for that matter, we should look at that. I have no problem. If we are looking at how we should be thrifty, how we should be making some savings here and there, fair enough. But in reality, when you look at it, you do the checks. The monies allotted to these ministries and agencies go into CAPEX and goods and services. So clearly, when they are making the argument, my good friend JDM, when he was on a platform in Harvard University talking about the impact of the COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war, he spoke so well the effect on the economies of African countries. But when they come within, that is where you see them making politics because of political expedience.
This 1,400 fuel allowance actually is also someone's salary, which is going to be impacted by these taxes that have been approved.
It is because
I think that there's a clear acknowledgement of the impact of this on the livelihood of the Ghanaian, is it not?
Even as we speak, do you know that their salaries have been reduced by 30%? You see, do you know their salaries, most of the appointees of the president, including himself, their salaries have dwindled to 30%? So what are we saying? I appreciate the fact that it is going to make cost of living. I appreciate it. I'm not a saint. I appreciate it. And His Excellency the President do appreciate. But because the international market is closed on our face, it means that you need to be innovative. Come within. What do we do to create some of this money? My concern is that because of the experience we had in the yield levy, the amount of revenue that we're expecting to raise, as we're speaking, I will not be able to reach it. We should do a lot so that we'll be able to raise all these money, because everybody is asking for development in his backyard, including Baku Central. Everybody is asking for development. So it's the same basket that the revenue is collected. That's where you use some to pay for your debt servicing, you use some for capex, you use some for capital expenditure, then government compensation.
Come back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7 and then also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, and a number of radio stations also picking it across the country on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Yes, Honorable Mayaga on this matter.
Well, I mean, so much has been said about these taxes. Industry has spoken extensively about the level of the tax burden that they have to contend with. And sometimes it seems to me that we don't seem to understand basic economics. You want to tax businesses, but you're taxing businesses in an environment where businesses are struggling to even survive, not to talk about making profit. And the businesses are saying that, look, one, energy cost very high, water very high, fuel has gone high, seems to be stabilizing, but still very high. Cost of production, very high. Inflation, very high. So all these, and we're still interest rates in the banks, very high. So all these things are making it difficult for the businesses to even stay afloat. So if you tax, what you might do is to make it difficult for them to survive. And so many of them may just fold up. And when they fold up, you create unemployment. And then you lose the enterprise that you can tax. If you make it so high for them, the cost of production, what will happen is that they will be uncompetitive relative to imported goods. So they will be producing the same product at a very high cost, and then people who have chosen to just import the final product will bring it in, including taxes, at a cheaper price. And so in the market, people will not buy what they have produced. And if people don't buy what they have produced, ultimately they will fold up. Their companies will collapse. That basically is what people are complaining about. But there is an additional effect, which is that, look, no businessman is a Father Christmas.
Indeed.
So, alternatively, fine. If you tax us so high and you create an ecosystem that is already unfriendly to private sector development, i.e. energy costs, huge water costs, huge labor costs, huge that costs, huge interest rates, we are going to produce at very high cost. And because we're not Father Christmas, we'll pass on the cost to the consumer. So prices are going to be very high, as we are seeing in the market already.
Indeed.
Where today you go to the market and an item is 10 Ghana cedis. Tomorrow you go back to the same market, it is 12 Ghana cedis. The next day you go, it is 15 Ghana cedis. By the end of the week, you go and it is 20 Ghana cedis. It has doubled. Now, what does that do? It will affect consumption. Because when people get to a point where they can no longer afford, they stop buying. When they stop buying, that again will have an impact on the business. Because if he's producing and people are not buying, he's not going to recover his investments. And so the company might end up having to close down. And people are converting all the warehouses, all the factories into warehouses. Indeed. Because they sit down and say, I'm producing this and I'm producing at a ridiculous price when I could just go to China and then get the same item and come and sell it at a much, much cheaper price, get a huge margin without the hassle of having to manage 1,000 workers, struggle with the banks, struggle with ECG, struggle with all these other agencies, and I still make my profit. So your industry will be collapsing, and then you'll be experiencing huge imports. And then again, that tends to affect foreign exchange because they need all those amounts of money to go and buy the product and come. And so your cedi keeps depreciating and your dollar appreciates in relation to the cedi. So when you have a situation like this, is increasing taxation the response? One, how efficient are you making the system? The ECG has been in the news recently because people are saying the ECG is following people who owe them to collect their monies. Are all state institutions functioning efficiently? What is the level of efficiency of state institutions? Because that is part of the problem. That has to be addressed.
The state-owned enterprises report.
The state-owned enterprises, how efficient have they been? Given all the facilities and support we are giving them. That is part of the problem. And then people are saying that in a crisis like this, you don't just keep saying Ghanaians pay more, but you also have to be demonstrating to Ghanaians that I'm also making sacrifices. It is not how much, in effect, you end up saving. It is a demonstration to the Ghanaians that, well, if we all have, because the money you are taxing, like profit before tax, that's somebody's money you are taking. He has invested his money, he's made profit, you say the economy is collapsing, so I need to take your money. So after you've done your business, you've declared your profit, before I tax it, I will take that money and then still tax it again. It's not as if you are forgoing tax. You will still pay tax on that profit because it's an earning. But then we will take 1% out of it. We will take 2% out of it. So you are telling the person, okay, make sacrifices. The person says, okay, fine. We all see that there's some problem, even though we believe that your ineptitude has exacerbated the problem, but there's some problem. There is indeed a Ukraine war. There is indeed a COVID. It has affected sectors like hospitality and etc. There's something. You get the situation. But your ineptitude has exacerbated the situation. But granted, there's something, and we all have to make sacrifices. Question really is, but what sacrifices are you making? You're the one asking us to make the sacrifices. What sacrifices are you making? Show me the sacrifice you are making. That I should forgo my profit before tax. But you, show me your sacrifice. The office of the president. Look at the number of party cronies that you have assembled them and given them fat salaries and facilities. Even if you are giving them 1,500 fuel allowances. And they are taking, what do you call it, Prados and not Land Cruisers. Or even taking Toyota, saloon cars.
Okay.
Look at the cost of all that. What sacrifices are you making? Those are the issues that are in contention. It's not that Ghanaians don't want to support for the country to recover. Okay. But the person asking them to support is rather feeding fat on the sacrifices that they are making. And go and look at the COVID-19 audit report.
Right.
People are saying, oh yeah, so you just use COVID to make money out of us? So those are the real issues.
Right.
And I don't want people to belittle the sacrifices and commitments that Ghanaians have already made. And I don't think that people should say that we in the minority are out there to obstruct
Right.
the process of getting the IMF bailout.
Right.
We were the first to predict that you needed to go to the IMF.
Okay.
Otherwise, the situation will get so bad that even when you go to the IMF, you will still have to struggle. So there's no way that will obstruct any effort to go to the IMF.
Okay.
But the IMF made two recommendations: cut down expenditure, ramp up revenue mobilization.
Okay.
You are focusing on revenue mobilization. You are doing nothing about cutting down on expenditure.
Honorable Boko Central Member
That's
of
why we will
Parliament
oppose you.
is with us. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. Mama Yarga is a Member of Parliament for the Boko Central Constituency, a private legal practitioner as well. Nikwa Tetatos Glover, former MP, former Deputy Transport Minister, and then also Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you on this. I am Alfred Okanse. Thank you so much for staying with us on Key Points. Join us same time next week. I am Alfred Okanse.